All right, Shalom, Otis, listen, we're going to continue, you know, Kawakab, Shalom. You know, acting like, you know, like he actually went through the whole week with it. Otis is watching the DVDs back to back, you know what I mean? But I'm acting like he went through the whole week with us. But the whole point is, we're going to pick up where we left off, breaking down the various uses for the term heaven in the scriptures. We went through the first use, which was found in Genesis chapter 1, when it named and described the purpose of what we call today the ozone layer. It called it a firmament, that it was put between the waters, or it said the waters, it was created to be a separation from the water, or to divide the waters on the outside of it or above it from the waters on the inside or below it. That today, like we said, it comes to the conclusion, that's called the ozone layer. So we were in the midst of describing and going through the scriptures that describe the second use of the word heaven, or heavens plural. We drew the conclusion through the scriptures that it was talking about, for the most part, activity in the kingdom of men, in the world of men, kingdoms. Specifically, to be in one's heaven is, for the most part, independence, sovereignty, power, glory, influence, a mighty military, wealthy, rich. All of these things, the Most High, Christ, the scriptures refer to as heavens, or a heavenly state. So we were breaking down, we went through Isaiah chapter 34 to show how, in that sense, when the Most High said his sword shall be bathed in heaven, it came back and told you that it was a kingdom. It said that he was angry, or he had, quote, indignation against the kingdoms and their armies. The nations is what the word that was used, and his armies. Then it came back and said, talking about the very same entities, the heavens and their hosts. We looked up hosts in the dictionary. We found that among many uses for the word host also, one of them was armies, and that was the one that applied in that instance, because the verse had already mentioned the word armies in the previous, that very same chapter in the previous verse. So what we're going to do, if you can recall, we went over Isaiah chapter 14, speaking or describing and breaking down Lucifer, which is found in verse 12, where it said, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer?" And what we were doing was we were breaking down the fact that this was a future prophecy of the world's most powerful empire, the most influential man, the actual light bearer of the world. That kingdom is a prophecy of that kingdom losing their preeminence in the world, as opposed to the old fable that this is talking about Satan or Lucifer getting kicked out of the spiritual realm after having been the lead angel of the choir and all that type of stuff. So we're going to pick back. The reason why I want to touch on this again is because the last time I went to the sign and only to find out that I didn't bring the signs. So this time I brought the signs. So we're actually going to start off with it again. Go through that. I kind of like to reiterate that again. Isaiah chapter 14 and starting at verse 12. All right, but let me Isaiah chapter 14 and starting, at verse 4. Go ahead.
"That thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, How have the oppressors ceased? The golden city ceased. The Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked, and the scepter of the rulers."
There you go. When it says that we were going to take up a proverb, in other words, once the Most High delivers us from the hand of our enemies, primarily the so-called white man, biblically known as Esau, nationally Edomites, or nationally referred to as the Edomites of the Bible. It says that we were going to take up a proverb against the king of Babylon and say, "How hath the oppressor ceased?" And that's what we were doing. We're going to read verses 4, like the brother just started. We're going to continue all the way down to verse 12. But we wanted to go there once again to set the pace and remind you, this is talking about an oppressive kingdom. That's why he said the king of Babylon. Now, take in mind, he's mentioning the king of Babylon. I'm going to show you something. It's not restricted to just that one person. From here on out, this is what I want to, so that we can establish, because you notice it says the king of Babylon, so one might be led to think, oh, it's only talking about, quote, Bush or Obama or whoever the incumbent leader is at the time. So we're going to go to two scriptures and show you that whenever the Most High addresses the king, might even go to three scriptures, the Most High addresses the king, he's talking about all the inhabitants under the realm of that king, within all the subjects that serve that king. So from there, real quick, you're going to go to Proverbs chapter 29, the very same Bible, Proverbs chapter 29, and I believe it's verse 12. Yes, that's that one. And I'll get the other one for you while you're reading that. Go ahead.
Proverbs chapter 29, verse 12. If a ruler hearken to lies,
if a ruler hearken to lies, go ahead.
All his servants are wicked.
All his servants are wicked. Now when it says servants, it's talking about his subjects. Because if the ruler is the king, then everyone under him is a what? Is a servant, or is a subject, or as they say, subject to the orders of the king. So the Most High tells you, man, read it again.
If a ruler hearken to lies, all his servants are wicked.
So we're looking at the so-called white men, the Edomites. Now, what have we seen from their rulers, man? Now, how can that apply today? You can talk about it on a state level, and you find out that the governor, you hear about corruption. Let's start on a municipal level. You be hearing about corruption in the police departments. You know what I mean? Then all that corruption in the police departments, excuse me, leads to the police chief. But who's in charge of the police chief? I'm not sure if the police chiefs of the cities are appointed by the mayors or by the governor. But the point is, it leads back to the authority of that agency, of that department. So all things within the state, all corruption within the state, it falls on what? It falls on the governors of each state. Now, the governors of each state, hell, they answer to a higher authority. So when it comes down to it, it all goes back to the President of the United States. It all goes back to the entire judicial system. It all goes back to the entire legislative branch, who determines what law, what bills, what propositions become bills, what bills become laws. Okay, what bills the President finally signs into law. So when the Most High said we're going to take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, he's saying we're going to take up this proverb against that oppressive kingdom. And this is what we're going to do. And the saying or the proverb that was to be taken up was, how is the oppressor ceased? How is the goal? When it says cease, meaning the Most High is going to bring this oppressive system to a halt. We're going to go to another one in the Apocrypha, Ecclesiastes chapter 10. And it is going to be, we're going to get there. This is tight. Verses 2. Listen, so for the sake of balance, read verse 1 and 2.
Okay.
Ecclesiastes in the Apocrypha, chapter 10, verses 1 and 2. Go ahead.
A wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered.
Listen, a wise judge will instruct his people. So that means if the judge is wise, then and he's instructing his people, then the people are going to be wise. That's like the scripture says. But if a ruler hearken unto lies, all of his servants or his subjects are wicked. Go ahead.
Verse 2. As the judge of the people is himself.
As the judge of the people is himself. Go ahead.
So are his officers.
So when you start finding corruption within the legal system, it goes all the way back to the highest authority within that branch. If you got municipal judges, if you got certain circuit judges are corrupt, then their superiors and their subordinates are corrupt. Go ahead. So the point is, the Most High holds responsible the wickedness that's being done within the kingdom. He holds the leaders responsible. And if the leader is corrupt and wicked, then the entire congregation or entire society that's under that person's authority is counted for wicked according to the Most High. So when the Most High said we're going to talk about, or we're going to take up a proverb saying the king of Babylon, is talking about all of the inhabitants. It's talking truly about the kingdom. Read that verse 2 from the top again.
As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers.
Go ahead.
And what manner of man the ruler of the city is.
And what manner of man the ruler of the city is. Go ahead.